You're listening to Binjang 91.5, and it's time for Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. G'day, Matthew.
Yeah, g'day, Tony. Great to be chatting to you again.
Yeah, now, the first thing is punches on push bikes, one of my favourite little subjects, and I'm sure it's one of yours. So, NASA is doing something quite interesting with that. We might be turning the whole situation on its head with new technology, with their
Absolutely.
rovers.
Yeah, and certainly you can just imagine the problem that NASA has when they send a rover off to rove around some distant massive object, and you get a puncture, and suddenly that rover is not able to actually go around and do its job anymore, and you don't have someone just on the side of the road there to fix that puncture. So they've developed some interesting concepts, some interesting ways to get around that and actually allow those rovers to keep going, doing what they're doing without getting punctures on those tyres. They effectively have airless tyres in those rovers. That same technology is going to be used now by a company on Earth, not in Australia, on Earth, to actually use those same metal alloys in a tyre so that you actually have an airless tyre that behaves and acts like a normal tyre. So it gives a little bit, you go over bumps, you go over rocks, that sort of thing, and you give a little bit on that tyre, which is part of the way that tyres are designed to work so that you stay in contact with the ground, you've got better grip. But of course, normally you do that with having air in the tyre. But the concept here is they use a metal alloy that's quite interesting. It's not like a normal steel, for example, that would be continually flexed, and then obviously you would get metal fatigue in there. The metal is designed not to fatigue. It's designed not to be too heavy, although it probably is a little bit heavier than having air in your tyres. But the idea is it just acts and behaves like a normal tyre, but you don't ever have to worry about that cathode going through the tyre and giving you a flat tyre. It's a combination of metals they use in it. They call it, the combination is called metal, METL, or Martensite elasticized tubular loading. Effectively, it's a combination of nickel and titanium. We haven't actually got a price on these yet, but you can imagine when you combine nickel and titanium in a tyre, I don't think they're going to be that cheap, Tony.
No, I don't think so. Now, getting on to the next question, Matthew. Fleeceware is becoming a concern. Now, fleeceware, you might like to define that because it's a relatively new term. So now, this fleeceware is costing people lots of money. You might like to just explain that.
Yeah, it is, Tony, and probably $10 million is the estimation of how much it's cost Aussies so far. So quite incredible amounts of money. And what fleeceware is when you download an app, you typically expect nowadays to pay approximately zero for an app. You might find an app that costs 99 cents, maybe even a really expensive app with some great features might be a couple of dollars. So you don't really expect to pay for them. But what some fleeceware producers of these apps are doing is they'll produce an app, free to download, free to use, sounds fantastic, but they'll have a trial period on there. And of course, that trial period, they'll say, this is a chance for you to test it out. After that trial period, they might have some sort of estimation of a small cost to use that. And for some people, they think, oh, that's all right. If it's a useful app, I'll download it, I'll use it, and I'm happy to pay that couple of dollars a month or some small fee to actually use it. But what they say it's going to cost you and then what they trick you into paying can be quite dramatically different. So people think they might be paying for a few dollars, maybe a few dollars a month or a week for it, and it can end up being $500, $1,000, a few $1,000s. And probably the worst of these is one called Fortune Scope. Now, I'm sure you've got an opinion on this, Tony, but a live palm reader and fortune teller sounds like an interesting way to go to install an app. Then to pay for that process as well, but they've been tricking people into paying $66 a week, so $3,500 a year to have their palm read or their fortune told. Hopefully one of the fortune-telling parts of it is that they say to people, don't download silly apps that don't really do much. Another one is a dating app, and they actually disclose their annual fee of $119.99. So when people download it and use it, they think, okay, I'm going to be paying a fee. But what they actually do is they charge $780 a year. So a number of apps like that are basically out there. And so you've really just got to be careful about looking at the terms and conditions, looking at the trial periods, seeing how much they're charging you, and keeping an eye on your bank statements as well to see if you're getting these charges much higher than what you think they are or what they should be.
Yeah. bovine solutions. That's what I'm going to call this next question. It's about, can cows be part of the solution to solving some of our electricity needs?
Well, some people are blaming climate change issues on cows with what comes out the other end of a cow. And there's a gigantic Chinese dairy farm has now become the world's largest methane farm. And they effectively are turning all the cow pats into electricity from the methane that comes from those. So they've got a huge gas-powered generator. It sounds pretty pleasant, Tony. They take the cow manure and it ferments, and they've got a process that they use for the fermenting of that. I'm not sure if that would be a really great place to work in there, but they allow that cow manure to ferment, and basically what that does is produces the methane. That methane's captured, that methane is then burnt, and then obviously turns that into electricity, and they're producing, or they've got a plant there that's capable of producing 5.66 megawatts of power. They've got 250,000 cows at this particular farm, which sounds like an incredible number of cows. They're only using 60,000 so far for this particular plant. So there's more scope to build this into something even larger. And 5.66 megawatts of power is about enough to power 3,500 American-sized households. So it's not an insignificant amount of electricity they're producing. Take this example and basically scale that around the world, then maybe cows can be used as a renewable source of power.
Yeah, fantastic. And you've been listening to Cowpat Solutions with Matthew Dickerson. I'm sorry, it's Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson on Binjang 91.5.
That's copyright pending, I assume, on that particular term there, Tony.
And now it's back to Angela on Binjang in Studio One.
Thanks, Tony.